So let's check. $80 XRP estimated short-term, banks investing trillions soon. I feel like we just got a new partnership, right?
Is starting to wake up and understanding that crypto and blockchain rails are here to stay. It is the evolution of the entire financial system. This is something that if you've been in the Ripple and XRP space for the last few years, you have known for quite some time. And it's only now that institutions are coming forward and admitting as much. Today, we're going to look at
about 0.006% of institutions own any crypto at all. That means a lot of institutions could be buying XRP once the Clarity Act comes out in September.
Some of those commitments here saying that 6 to 7 billion people will get a crypto wallet overnight through Android and Apple. That will push crypto's evolution on the global scale to the maximum degree. First, I want to play this older clip.
This is the thing people have been predicting for 4 years to happen, and now we are finally at the breaking point. So the emerging financial architecture, notice how commercial banks are positioned behind central banks relative to XRP Ledger, XRP, and then you can see here all of these banks are lining up the smaller ones with the big banks.
Here, this is Apex Crypto Consulting talking about this image that we've all seen here in the XRP space. He gave a good analysis. I also want to...
A lot of these banks like bought maybe something from Ripple or are in one way working from Ripple. Maybe they didn't buy fully into the XRP Ledger, but XRP Ledger has so many utilities. It's like a Swiss knife of sorts. It has multiple uses, and this is where XRP wins, right? Second person, I've heard say billions will have a crypto wallet on their first phone overnight. I'm not sure if billions, but what I do know is probably millions of people coming in and talking about XRP. Again, XRP and Ripple are trying to make it so retail investors will buy Ripple very easily.
Show you that clip. I played this on another video, and this clip absolutely blew my mind. You have to hear what's in it. I also have some other Ripple and XRP content that we're going to go over, some new information from CME Group. Got to show you. Let's first start here with this clip, and let's get it.
They're all next to the XRP Ledger, and you see how the commercial banks here are behind the central bank. So here's the commercial banks. They're behind the central bank. You have commercial banks, central banks, and then you have the XRP Ledger. That's the M bridge right here. Let's look at that again. Exact same design here. You've got the central banks that are closer to the XRP Ledger, and then commercial banks are behind. Central banks right next to the XRP Ledger, and then commercial banks are behind.
So yeah, it's pretty obvious that a lot of these smaller banks will just follow what the big banks are doing right now, partnering with XRP. So the banks are all connected, and again, you have bigger banks, you have smaller banks, and the bigger banks obviously are partnering with XRP because they might just use their system, the same as the big one, which is another, few $10,000s of dollars of XRP being burned each single month, which increases the use case for XRP overnight.
Central banks. Central banks are between the XRP Ledger and the commercial banks.
All right, so if you're interested in watching this person's full video, I'll just show you here their channel here. It's on, here's the X channel. It's got 3,500 followers. And I'll even show you here their YouTube channel if you're interested in taking a look. I'm not going to play this video here, but he's got about 14,000 subscribers. Worth checking out if you like XRP content. The person does some pretty good information. All right, I did want to play this because this clip freaking blew my mind. Absolutely insane. You have to hear this.
Wall Street's excited.
So basically, Ripple is trying to sell all of these banks like a service, trying to connect everything. It's trying to enter the system that is really outdated from before. The old system takes like 1 or 2 days to send a transaction, takes over $3. Now, in the developing country, this is a lot of money. So we are seeing this, like literally millionaires talking about XRP overnight in these. There was a lot of events this month, which also boosted XRP.
They're going to tokenize a bunch of stuff. They're going to put it on blockchains. That's great. But I think Silicon Valley is going to be the distribution. In the next couple of years, Apple and Google are going to enable stable coins and a crypto wallet natively in iOS and Android. So kind of sort of overnight, 6, 7, 8 billion people are going to get a crypto wallet in their phone. They don't even have to ask for it. It's just going to be there.
6 to 7 billion people are going to get a wallet overnight. What's going to happen is you're probably going to be able to send money, crypto, stablecoins, XRP.
So I don't know if it's going to be 6 to 7 billion. I feel like it's going to be a way lower amount, maybe like 30, 50 million. But if this happens, if we even get 1 billion people downloading the app, it would be one of the most used apps in the world. Now, to get that, it's going to be very hard, right? This is what every single corporation wants. But they want to simplify everything, because right now, if you're using crypto, you're probably in the top 1% of smart people, because crypto is not easy to use. it's actually very hard to use for, a retail investor, someone who just heard about crypto. It's not like the stock market. This is where, millions and billions of people could be flocking in with a click of a button. They could be now owning XRP.
Android or an Apple phone, right? The phone number associated with the phone.
That's what Ripple was teasing, like a phone number having, and buying XRP that will be tied to your phone. You forgot your password. No problem. You're just going to get a new number on the phone itself.
Or the email associated with the phone as well. That's what you're going to be able to use as the wallet address to send this. What do you think happens when everybody wakes up with a crypto wallet on their phone? Then you think of like central banks, right? If they want to entice people to get onto this new ecosystem, right? These new digital rails, they can say, hey, here's $500 to sign up. We can send it right to your Money mobile wallet. Just have to fill this out, fill this out, fill this out. I know there's a lot of people saying, Sensei, I would never do that. If they offered you 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000, at what point would you say yes? Because there will.
Didn't one of the countries try that with Bitcoin, and they gave each resident of the country like $10 to download the app? I feel like same thing with XRP. Like claim your first 0.0 XRP if you download the app. This is a very common tactic that might be used. And that's how mainstream adoption for XRP will happen before Bitcoin.
Be a point for most people, and that point might not even be thousands of dollars. Think of about $500 or $1,000 could do with your family, right? Most people can't afford a $1,000 medical bill that comes up out of nowhere. People are working paycheck to paycheck, right? They are struggling just to get by. And if governments step in and say, here's some free money, people are going to take it.
There's going to be APIs and the operating systems for every single application. Telegram, WhatsApp, Facebook, you name it, is going to be able to tap into that API.
Is it happening more quickly than you thought, slower than you thought, or as you thought?
I mean, look, if you asked Kyle of 8 years ago, would crypto be like mature 8 years later, I would have said yes. And I would argue crypto is not really mature today, so slower than I would have thought. But I think a huge part of that has just been regulatory, which you could never forecast. Genius happening has changed a lot of things. Even 30 days ago, it was like illegal for anyone in Silicon Valley, like any of the big tech companies, to actually do anything productive with crypto.
That's what I'm telling you guys. This is why the corporations did not own any XRP. For this simple reason, they could not buy it, and I keep telling people that.
That is no longer the case as of roughly 30 days ago. And I think once those guys flip the switch, that's when this goes truly.
All right. Here is a clip from Ripple Van Winkle. He was retweeting this. It says, JP Morgan and Ondo Finance are partnering to revolutionize finance. This is why, baby, you should be looking at Ondo. We've talked about this in almost every single live stream I've had for the last 2 years. We've been talking about Ondo, maybe a year and a half. It's been a long time.
Yes, I'm really thrilled to see how JP Morgan and Ondo have been able to work together so well. JP Morgan is the most reliable, largest bank in the US for a lot of good reasons. Ondo is a great tokenization platform that's made really high quality on-chain tokenized product, which is why I think JP Morgan chose to work with them. Nellie's point, this is a very collaborative and mutually beneficial relationship where on the JP Morgan side and the capital markets on the Ondo side, they both benefit from this.
And guess what? This Ondo partnership with JP Morgan, which is one of the biggest banks, they both benefit, but guess what they use for the payment platform? They use XRP Ripple. From all the payments they could use, they use XRP Ledger. Just let that sink in. Again, this is like Ondo is like a Ripple competitor, but not really, is doing different things. It's trying to have different type of partnerships, not with banks, but more on real world asset and RWA. Here is where it blows my mind. They decided to use XRP Ripple. Literally, BlackRock is going to be paying them out on the ledger itself, from what I heard.
Integration and the ability for transactions to happen between these two groups, they both grow in the utility they provide to their client base. They both grow in what they're able to offer their users. The technical challenges of, how do you connect these two systems? How do you make sure that, value and data flows between them? How do they get synchronized in order to enable these two groups to interact with each other in these valuable ways? That has to meet a certain level of reliability and guarantees that Nelly and JP Morgan needs to see. And it needs to have the features and advanced capabilities that Ian and Ondo need for their system to take full advantage of this kind of transaction.
Remember, most big banks, like the 10 largest banks, 15 largest banks in the world, they have understood that this was coming for quite some time. They have prepared, and they have all of this infrastructure already built out. But I
feel like a lot of these banks are waiting for regulation before they fully launch on the XRP Ledger, which, if you don't know, XRP Ledger is still in testing stages. in very early versions. That is because the banks are not committed to 100% use it. And my personal opinion is because the Clarity Act bill hasn't passed, which will probably happen through the Senate in about September. You know, the US government is forcing themselves to push and regulate crypto before anyone else.
Thousands and thousands and thousands.
Because if they regulate it first, that's where all the countries will move to. Like, they know that moving to US and starting a crypto company there, that is going to be basically, they want to be the future powerhouse.
Thousands of other banks, you know, sat on their hands and they really maybe didn't even have the foresight to pre-plan until maybe regulation was happening. All of these things were happening. Those banks need infrastructure and they need it quickly. And the best way to get that infrastructure is to go to Chainlink, to go to HBAR, to go to Ripple, to go to Circle and borrow and use their infrastructure to connect to these new digital rails. This is going to be a boom cycle for the crypto space like we've never seen before. This is how the industry goes from 4 trillion to 100 trillion over the next 8 to 10 years. And I want to be a part of that, right? I think that I'm in the right place at the right time, understanding the right information. And
I also feel that is because also XRP is not only going to be working with banks. That's a misconception. There's a ton of other partnerships they have in plan. Just look at their patents. There's a ton of patents they actually filed in 2013 that have never been realized because they've been focusing on being profitable right now. In 2023, 2024 is the first year they were profitable as a company. Now they can develop all these projects that the governments are looking for, that banks are looking for, that small businesses are looking for, and the retail is looking for. Perhaps we are going to be seeing a lot more announcements coming next year. Now that the lawsuit is over, they have a lot more free time on their hands, which is where the big money could be coming in for XRP.
I hope my future is bright, filled with all kinds of good things. It's already been filled with so many good things, right? 100,000 subscribers. Couldn't have done that without all your support and your love and, you know, your time and your energy. And that means the world to me. And I'm going to keep showing up every day to give you the latest news and information because I owe you that much. I really appreciate you. All right. High Vibe Assets. It says Ripple, Santander, PNC, Bank of America. Holy smokes. Inflows and outflows with institutional partners. XRPL is insane. And he says RLUSD to settle domestic transactions in seconds, less than a penny. Get your popcorn ready. Ooh.
This is just a new partnership, guys. I forgot to mention Shinhan Bank just partnered with XRP as well, which is, you know, just another smaller fish that is going to be joining the bigger fish. Everyone is building on the XRP ledger. Again, they're not fully 100% committed. Some of them are only using a tool for XRP ledger, for example, fast payment transactions. So that's the only thing they hired. But it is a positive uptrend. A lot of these, you know, banks might be using something in the future as well, like adding some of these tools from XRP ledger more. And that's where really the more they order, the more they have to pay Ripple, but the more money they save.
I love some popcorn. Oh my God, this week.
So for example, Bank of America, I'm pretty sure they only want like the fast transfers. They don't want to actually burn XRP, but they are making so many tools of itself, so many crafts, which really makes a big difference. Look, they're a $1.1 trillion company.
My wife and I are going to go see K-pop Demon Hunters in the theaters. It's like a sing-along. I mean, I'm not super excited about the sing-along part, but I am excited to watch that movie in the theaters. Oh, it's one of my favorite movies in 2025 so far. I know what you're thinking. Go watch the movie and then criticize me. All right, let me just show you this. I plugged this information into Perplexity. I pulled this some additional information. Here is that information. If Ripple and XRP were to capture even a fraction of institutional flows mentioned in this image, covering banks like Santander, SBI Holdings, Bank of America, PNC, and Standard Chartered, Shinhan Bank, Woori, and American Express, XRP's price could dramatically upward, could see a dramatic upward pressure. Here's what the current analysis and
this is what I've been saying, guys, but for institutional adoption, you need to be allowed to purchase. Like, look at 2020. Ripple was 20 cents, but you cannot buy it on any exchanges. So when banks and large institutions use Ripple's technology for payments and settlements, the demand for XRP as a bridge asset rises, creating sustained utility-based buy pressure, not just hype-driven speculation. Price models estimated that if XRP became the go-to international settlement across major banks, its price could leap anywhere from $8 to over $80 per token. Now, if we want to see $80 per token, guys, we're going to need to see a token burn. But it is not impossible, right? This is the big factor that we're seeing. Like $8, we're already at $3, and we just needed 1 year to go from 50 cents to $3. And with more money coming in, $8 is not that impossible.
Model suggests institutional adoption is one of the strongest real demand drivers for XRP. When banks and large institutions use Ripple's technology for payments and settlements, the demand...
What institutions are waiting for is literally regulation, which is coming later this year and probably in the next 1 to 2 years. So it's not going to be overnight, as some YouTubers are saying, or some people are saying, XRP is going to hit $80 overnight. It really is going to take time because of this regulation that I'm trying to explain to you guys.
And for XRP as a bridge asset rises, creating sustained utility based on buy pressure, not just hype-driven speculation. Price models estimate that XRP became the go-to international settlements across border major banks. The price could leap anywhere from $8 to $80 per token, depending on the percentage of global payments. Now, I want to take a look at this. If in fact XRP was announced to be the deciding factor for all of these institutions to use for cross-border payments or domestic payments or whatever it is, the FOMO level for XRP would far exceed this price, right? You got to understand that the ETF approvals, that is going to do a huge wonder for XRP's price. It could even send XRP into the 3 digits if we get hundreds of billions of dollars to come into XRP from fresh inflows over a few year period. Add this to the mix and other stuff that Ripple and XRP, XRP community.
ETFs will bring 1 to 2 billion in the first month, according to predictions. $1 to $2 billion of XRP being bought. Now, some of that will be outflows, but the most important factor is so much easier to get your own XRP. Some people might only buy 10 XRP. Some people might buy 1 XRP. But again, that is going to be a new holder that is going to know about XRP and going to start holding it for future years.
And dev team are building, borrowing, lending, tokenization of financial assets, right? Ripple becoming a bank right now. There's so many things that you can look back and say, hey, you know what? I was right, right? We didn't get everything. We weren't right about everything.
Ripple being a bank is literally the first step for their ledger to work. If they were a security, if they lost the lawsuit, we would never get to this point because it would be very hard to get their banking license, which means their XRP ledger would be very hard to work. But now they're pushing for worldwide adoption.
Everything. But we had the understanding of where this was going, and we believed in Ripple, the company. We believed in XRP as an ecosystem, as a blockchain infrastructure, and now we are here. A lot of what we thought is coming true, and I cannot wait to see where this all takes us. It does say if 1,000 top global banks held $500 million worth of XRP each for liquidity needs, XRP could reach $8. So I don't know where it's pulling this information from, but listen, if 1,000 institutions woke up tomorrow and started buying XRP, it would be all over. But the shouting. The only place you would need to figure out at that thing, right? The only thing you would need to decide on that day is where are you going to retire, right? Do you want to stay where you are, or do you want to go to Hawaii or Japan, right? Or London? I don't know. Italy, Greece. Where would you want to retire? I'd love to better understand that. Chad Steingraber, of course, says CME. Like, Chad's a good guy. I don't agree with Chad on a lot of stuff, but me and him put our differences aside. He posts a lot of good information. I'm going to give him a shout out. A CME now is the 4th place and largest XRP open interest, nearing 1 billion. XRP futures are growing, signaling stronger market demand.
And again, where is there a very big interest coming from? It's a very big interest coming from Korea, where they're buying XRP on a massive level. And I feel like not only USA, other countries are joining in. If we look at the data, tons of traders are buying and selling XRP. It's being used worldwide. It's not just a USA thing.
And for upcoming spot XRP ETFs, and here is that demand. CME, open interest, and look at all these: BitGet, Binance, Bybit. CME is 938 million and rising. It is getting kind of crazy here. I've been watching these contracts grow month over month, and it is getting very exciting. CME's XRP futures open interest is hitting all-time highs, now ranking 4th globally among exchanges for nearly $1 billion. As of August 21st, 2025, CME reported surpassing 6,000 contracts. This is without crypto regulation, right? Clarity Act. Now, they said Clarity Act was coming in September. Now it sounds like they're trying to get it done before the end of the year. Regardless, whether it's September or whether it's November, this is going to be extremely bullish.
I feel like that the government is basically rushed to get it done. They've been asking for it. They said if we don't get it done, another country will, and they will be first. They're pushing to get it done before anyone else.
For the crypto space. And I would imagine this will double, triple, maybe even quadruple or higher over the next few years. I think it's just going to get insanely silly. This surge marks CME as the leading US regulated venue for XRP derivatives, signaling a power.
Also, ETFs really increase volume. Just one more thing, guys. ETFs, they really increase the volume, which increases the price. High volume trading has been proven to increase the prices of XRP.
Powerful influx of institutional participation and demand for regulated XRP exposure. I think it was like 45% of the value going into CME, right? This is one of the largest derivatives platforms in America. A lot of this money is coming from overseas, right? There are overseas people in Australia, London, all of these different places, Japan, Korea, that are interested in these types of derivatives for XRP, and they are investing. Notably, institutional traders are driving much of CME's volume, fueled by recent regulatory wins and rising speculation for ETF approvals. Also, Lark Davis wanted to point out that we are not even at the close to the market being at the top. He says that none of the 30 bull market peak indicators are flashing right now, yet some people are convinced that Bitcoin and the entire crypto market has topped for the cycle. And so he's pointing out that some of these indicators include the Bitcoin AHR 999 index, high cycle top indicator, Pule multiple, Bitcoin rainbow chart, days of ETF net outflows, and he's kind of showing kind of what it needs to be, ETF and Bitcoin ratio, 2-year MA multiplier, MV.
It's very obvious XRP is not at the top. Even like the indicators are showing that, which they are, based on historical patterns. The thing is, historical patterns, we didn't have a bullish government. We didn't have ETFs coming in. We didn't have rate cuts coming in. We just had a small spike that lasted for a few weeks. This is where really it could change everything.
RV, Z-score, Bitcoin bubble index, USDT flexible savings, RSI 22-day, altcoin season index. It should be at 75. This is at 51. Bitcoin dominance, right? 58% up, 68, 65. Bitcoin long-term holder supply, Bitcoin short-term, Bitcoin reserve risk, Bitcoin net neutralized profit. I mean, this is pretty much all the Bitcoin signals here. Surprised to see Coinbase on here, right? Coinbase reaching the #1 app, but here are all the things that he is looking at. And it doesn't look like we're even close. August and September are usually strange kind of months, choppy months. I'd imagine that October, November, December should be extremely impactful for all of our.
So again,